This video will teach you 3 successful pre-mixing habits to prepare the recordings of your song for mixing. Now, pre-mixing is just one step of the process. Get the whole mixing survival guide at homestudiomixacademy.com. The goal of pre-mixing is to prepare your track for the mixing journey. We want to set up a foolproof plan that sets you up for success. By now, the arrangement of your song has taken shape and you're eager to start mixing everything together to sound huge. But before you spend your precious time and energy bringing the song to life, you want to make sure that every piece of sound that you have to work with is the best that it can possibly be. Start by going through your session and audition each track. Look for the 3 T's of pre-mixing success: tone, tune, and time. If you have to tune and quantize every single note, it might be better to re-record. Work on the phrasing and the accuracy of the delivery. The first habit you want to get into is tackling time and pitch issues before you go on to mixing. If you have tracks with multiple takes, comp these together into a super take and then flatten and merge to create a single region for each one of your drum tracks. Next, you can go on to any time alignment or quantization. Now, this is an art within itself. A live performance usually isn't 100% in time, and sometimes snapping everything to the grid can sound quite unnatural. So start with the backbeats, then bring the kick to sit nicely around the snare, and listen to each section to make sure that the groove sounds solid. Then tune the vocal. Separate the notes of the vocal so that they best represent the shape of the performance. Then go in and correct important notes. Often these are the notes that are held at the end of phrases. Make sure that the melody comes to a rest at the center of the pitch. This can help add some extra confidence to a vocal performance while maintaining a natural sound, which you wouldn't get if you just snapped everything to match the key. Next, make sure you're satisfied with how all the instruments sound, because it's time to commit. No more tweaking, we're gonna lock in the desired sound. Because habit number 2 is simplify and commit. We're gonna start by bouncing all of our MIDI tracks to audio. This is gonna make them a lot easier to work with and take up a lot less processing. Now, as you're going through your tracks, you wanna commit to processing that's essential to your sound. Things like saturation or any heavy tone shaping. But you want to omit processing that you might want to tweak later, like any kind of compression or sidechain compression or reverbs or delay. You can also group similar tracks together to form stems, things like background vocals or percussion, or if you have 2 mics on the kick and snare. Here I have 6 tracks of background vocals, and I've got them balanced, all ready to go. I'm going to bounce them in place, and that's going to print them to 1 background vocal track. And this is going to make a huge difference because now I don't have to balance 6 tracks going forward. I've got that done, and now I've just got 1 track of background vocals. Now, on the other hand, you may have all of your drums on 1 track, like if you're using Logic's Drummer. You can separate those out so that each drum is on its own track and then bounce each track to audio. Convert your drummer region to MIDI by dragging it to a software instrument channel. Then right-click, go to MIDI, and separate by note pitch. And this will create a separate track for each drum in your drum kit. And this brings us to habit number 3. Export your multi-tracks to a new, fresh session. We're going to start by going under the File menu, choosing Export, and then export all tracks as audio files. And this will include all tracks in the session window. So if you have any buses that are in your session window, they will also print. So make sure that you delete all of those. First thing to do in this window is create a new folder for your multi-track files. And it's always a good idea to include the BPM as well. Next, make sure you're sending the audio at the same bit depth as your session, and then choose the wave format. And you want to normalize. You're going to reset the gain structure to make you reevaluate the role of each instrument in the mix. Sometimes we have things that are buried down really low that we don't actually need in the mix, and by having everything at a even playing field, it's going to make you really second guess how everything works together and what's necessary and what's not. When naming your tracks, it's a good practice to include the track number so that all your tracks will show up in the order that they are in your current session. And sometimes I like to put in the BPM and then a space. It's easy to read, and then the tracks show up in order, and I don't forget the BPM. Of course, in Logic, it will remember the tempo information for you, so it's not required. Then drag your tracks into your new fresh session, and you can start to color code them, add your arrangement markers, and begin to rebalance your tracks. If you want to learn more about pre-mixing and the entire mixing process, head over to homestudiomixacademy.com to pick up your mixing survival guide to release the best mix of your life in the next 7 days. A link to that is in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.